Hello and welcome to Rogue Artisans and Crafters. Our show is about featuring local artists and craftspeople from within Southern Oregon. We'll talk to our featured artists about how they came to their art, what drives them as artists, find out stories behind their art process, and how their work as artists influences their lives. Today we have the privilege of featuring local artist Kim Ragsdale, who does pencil drawings with a Western art theme. Kim's art in pencil drawing has so much detail that it can make you feel like you're looking at a black and white photo. I find that talent quite remarkable, and I'm pleased to be able to introduce her work to our audience. So Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're here because you've got some incredible art that you produce, and it definitely is an incredible talent in pencil work that you do.
Well, thank you.
So I'm pleased to have you here. To begin with, how long have you been a professional artist?
Well, actually, I would say that was probably when I was 15 years old, because that's when I got my first job, that somebody paid me $25 to draw a album cover of the Pegasus on the Aerosmith album.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so I have been doing a professional art commission since I was 15.
Wow, that's pretty remarkable. Yeah, I mean, I can't even begin to think what I was doing when I was 15, but it certainly wasn't that.
I liked getting paid, even if it was only $25.
Yeah, yeah. And how have you moved from that early first assignment into doing the Western art that you're doing now?
Well, I grew up in Montana,
okay.
And so I loved riding horses and did it all the time, and I always wanted a horse.
Yeah.
So I started drawing horses when I was probably 6 or 7, dogs, that type of thing. I never did get that horse, but I drew them all the time.
Yeah.
And Western Horseman was my inspiration.
Right, yeah.
So I just kept drawing and kept drawing. And the interesting thing is that when I came into high school, I had a really good art teacher, and he saw the talent that I had, and he said, you know, you should really do people. And I'd only done animals.
Right.
And he goes, oh, no, you need to do people. So he actually took me under his wing, taught me how to be a portrait artist. So I was doing people for a long time.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is that I came back around in my older years, after I had raised kids, and I wanted to go back to the horses and the dogs.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And since I'm from Montana, it was just a natural thing.
Right.
And I lived here in the Rogue Valley out on a cattle ranch. So all my neighbors had horses, dogs, and then I have 6 kids, so I had plenty of models. And so I just used them to be able to put them in situations in Western themes. And actually, the thing that I like about Western art is because the Western art collector realizes what kind of work goes into a pencil drawing.
Yes.
So they're willing to pay the price that it takes that I actually charge to be able to do the pencil.
Yeah.
And they don't have any argument about it. They know what it takes. They know how many hours are involved. They know the detail involved. And so that's why I went into the Western field, because they wanted horses, they wanted dogs, they wanted cowboys, cowgirls. So that's what I do.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly a very remarkable set of art that you have done. And you know, I've done lots of art in my life, including pencil, but I never have ever achieved anything close to like what you were able to produce.
Well, thank you.
And it's the sheer detail that you get in your pencil. It makes me I find it a wonder that you can get so much detail out of such a simple little art tool as a pencil. You know,
well, I use 19 different kinds of pencil leads.
Yes, okay.
So I can go from the very, very lightest to the very, very darkest, almost to charcoal.
Yeah.
And I layer it. So I use a watercolor piece of paper.
Okay.
It's a 140-pound watercolor paper. And I layer the pencils. And I do that, I start very, very light, and I layer it until I get the darkest darks. Right. So when you see my dark in all my drawings, that's 10 layers of pencil.
Right, okay.
So super detailed, but it brings the depth out, so you think that you're looking at a photograph.
Right.
So my job is to make a 2D piece of paper look 3D.
Yes.
And so that's my goal.
Right. Yeah. And when I look at a piece like your piece here with the boots, or your horse portrait right behind us, I mean, it's just, I find it just really remarkable how much detail there is to be seen when you look up close. It's just incredible. So,
well, the thing that a pencil artist has to do is we don't have color to drive emotion.
Yes.
So to bring your viewer into your drawing, you have to, and this is my personal feeling, the kind of detail that I put in, I want people to come up to my drawing and be like this close away from it and go, oh my gosh, is that a pencil?
Yeah.
And I can see every little hair, or I can see the reflection in the eye, or whatever. That's my goal.
Yeah.
But I use the techniques that photographers use. I make it a depth of field. What I want people to look at are crisp, clean, and perfect. What's in the background is blurred.
Right.
So it's a full drawing, but it makes people stay in your drawing longer, and that's my goal.
Yeah.
Because some people, I do art shows all the time, and they'll go through and they'll go, oh yeah, this is whatever, and they kind of pass by. I want people to go, what? And like, it's like, oh my gosh, is that pencil? And that type of thing. So that's kind of the reason why I put the detail that I do in my drawings.
Now, on like these pieces that we have on display here for the show, what's the average kind of investment in time that it takes you to produce these kinds of pieces?
Well, that's kind of a joke. I usually say that it's my age, because that's how long it took me to get that kind of, expertise.
Yes, right.
And people go, huh? Anyway, but in a typical piece, My Puppy in the Boots, Waiting on the Boss, 500 hours is what it takes.
Yeah.
I had a really good pencil artist friend that we do a lot of shows together. And she says, Kim, what you need to do is think of 1 square inch at a time. And if you think of 1 square inch at a time, you won't go insane thinking how much you have to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. I draw, I go do the laundry, I cook dinner, I do whatever, I come back. I draw another square inch. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And that's how I produce it without going insane.
Yeah, that's a large investment in time for sure, and
It is.
And I don't know that I could have that kind of patience.
I don't have that kind of patience. That's why I do it 1 square inch at a time, because I have other things to do too.
Yeah.
And I actually draw standing up. I draw. I use a window as my easel, and I put all my work, tape it up, and then I have OT lights, which are natural spectrum light, and I have them from the ceiling, and they go down into my workspace, and then that way I draw standing up because I draw really big.
Yeah.
So what I do is after I draw for a while, I'll step back, like you've probably seen people at easels painting.
Yes.
Well, pencil artists can do that too. So I step back and I look and I go, oh, I need more tone variation here or whatever. And so that way I'm not bent over a piece of paper. I'm actually standing up and I'm drawing that way with all of my tools at the ready, my pencil sharpener, my erasers, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds like because I'm in my past when I was doing whatever drawing work I was doing, I always had I was at a table and kind of,
Well, art tables are actually, inclined for a reason.
Yeah.
But I found that it was easier for me to put everything on a window.
Yeah.
And then that way I can actually step back and see everything.
Right.
And because I draw so big, I draw at eye level. Once I get done with that, I move the drawing up.
Okay.
So
Yeah, right. So
what I do is I don't skip around in my drawing. I start at the very top and I get all the detail, and it's like a curtain falling, and you can see all the detail all the way down. And so when I'm at the very bottom, all the stuff on the top is already done. I don't have to go back. That keeps me from smearing. It keeps me from overworking.
Right.
And so when I'm done, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then I go and get it framed.
Do you, in the initial start of your piece, I mean, do you do like an initial sketch of the general shapes on the paper and then start at the top and do it?
And actually what I do, and that's a good question, I actually take another piece of paper and I do all my initial sketching because I do everything freehand. And then I use photo reference, many different photo references. And then I do an initial sketch, very light. And then when I get done, I take a Sharpie pen and I just outline everything that I have sketched.
Right.
I put it on my window and I take my perfect, pristine, 140-pound watercolor paper. I put it on top of that and then I trace it.
Right. Okay.
So it was an original sketch, but I trace it so that any eraser marks are not on there because I want this paper to be so perfect.
Yeah.
Because a pencil artist, if you have to erase, it upsets the paper. It messes it up. So when you're trying to do any kind of detail or shading, if you've erased too much, it looks like hamburger. It doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't work.
Right.
So I've learned over the years that I do my initial sketch, do all of my erasing, and then I do the transfer onto the good paper, and then I never have to erase again. All I have to do is just do all the detail, and that's why it's crisp and clean and not blurry.
Okay. Well, that's definitely a really interesting process compared to like my experience in the past. So I think that's really kind of cool that you make such an effort to achieve that kind of standard in your work.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Now we've got about a dozen images to kind of we got behind us. So let's kind of start with this image that we got behind. This is
Eye of the Soul.
Eye of the Soul.
This is what you see when you bridle a horse.
Right.
So this is every horse that you would see. I purposely cropped this because everybody knows it's a horse.
Right.
I don't have to have the nostrils or the ears. And typically artists do the entire head.
Yes.
I thought that was boring.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something different. This is actually a horse in natural sunlight. It's a sunset, and so it's showing through the iris of the horse, so you can see the pupil and everything.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very interesting, and I thought, well, that's what I want to do, and it was before everybody did horse eyeballs, because everybody did after that. This is 2006. I did that, and it's been a really good piece for me. It's been on a couple of magazine covers, and it's probably my bestseller.
Yeah, it's just wonderful.
Well, thank you.
And so now we've got
Beyond the Wire.
Yeah.
Beyond the Wire, this is an interesting story. I met a framer and I wanted a barnwood frame and I wanted old rusty barbed wire in it, but I didn't have a piece to put in it yet. So I named the piece before I even drew it. And so this is called Beyond the Wire. I knew I wanted to have wild horses in Eastern Oregon. So I went to Eastern Oregon, I took photos of horses, but they don't stand as a herd.
Right.
So I took individual pieces, combined them together, it's kind of like Photoshop in your brain.
Yeah, right.
And I put them together, and that's how I came up with this piece.
Yeah, well,
it's the biggest piece I've ever done.
Yeah, well, it's a wonderful piece.
Well, thank you.
So let's go on to the next one and see what we've got. And okay, so now we've got your boots, and now
This is my most recent one.
right, and this is one that you also have you just got published
Yes,
in this book.
In this book. This book is called Strokes of Genius, The Best of Drawing. And it was, you get juried in. There were 7,000 drawers that tried to get in, and 102 of us got in.
Wow.
So I was pretty excited.
Yeah, that's a pretty
So
good
this
achievement.
piece is called Waitin' on the Boss, and it's actually an Australian Shepherd puppy and an old pair of work boots. And so this is also natural spectrum light. And I do each individual hair, and each there's dirt on those boots. And the thing that drove me crazy about this one is the individual stitching on the boots. It actually took me 3 years to complete, because I gave up after about a year and a half, and I went, oh, this is too detailed. And then I had a show that I needed to have a really killer piece on, and so I finished it in a month and a half.
Yeah.
So it was like crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's you know, you probably get tired of hearing me say it, but it's an incredible piece.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So now let's go on to like the next image that we have here.
Now, this is an interesting one. This is actually Aragon, who was the 2004 Olympic winner for 3-day eventing. So the horse is what it's about.
Yeah.
Now, I tried to get the approval to draw the writer, whose name is Gunter, and the organization that he's part of wouldn't give me the rights. So I just cut off his head.
Yeah, right. Well,
Because
there you
it's
go.
all about the horse.
Yeah.
So, and the reason that I wanted to do this piece is the braid balls. Because of the braids, I
Right.
wanted to see if I could capture the wispy stuff. As soon as I did that, I did a little happy dance, and I went, oh yeah, I can do the rest of this horse.
Yeah.
So, and he's a European warm blood, which was very hard to draw because they're born black. They have white hairs come in later,
Right.
and so it was pretty crazy.
Okay. So let's see the next image that we have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is fun. This is my Western twist on MC Escher.
Yes. One of my favorite artists.
And so this is a deceive the eye, a trompe l'oeil, which means to deceive the eye. And so this is actually my son when he was 3, my granddaughter when she was 5, and their hands. So the reason that this works is that there are 2 planes of reality.
Yes.
One has the light source coming from one side.
Right.
The other has the light source coming from the opposite, and that's why you get that is it a drawing? Is it real? And so this is a piece that took a lot of collaboration from a lot of my mentors that I have tried to find, and get information from, and they actually helped me finish this piece.
Yeah. Well, that's yeah. I mean, when I first saw it, I was going, oh, that's like an MC Escher,
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
that makes me very happy.
yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next image that we have.
Oh, puppy love. Okay, this gal is from Eastern Oregon, and she raises border collies. And I love people, they want me to do dogs all the time. But the thing that's cool about this piece is that she's a redhead, and I wanted to draw somebody with freckles without making them look like they were spotted. And so this was a real challenge. Couple different kinds of denim. I love doing clothing, lots of detail there. And so this one actually won Best in Show at Sacramento, the California State Fair.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's head on to the next image that we have.
Oh, best friends.
Yeah.
This was 4 different photos. The girl was by herself, the dog was by himself, and the horse was by herself.
Okay.
And so I wanted it to be just this lovely little crowd piece.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of put it together that way. The challenging part, of course, was the twisted fringe on the chinks that she's wearing, which drove me absolutely insane. But it was so much fun when I got done. And I always make sure that the hat is tipped low, because this could be any woman that loves horses and dogs. And so I've learned to do that. I don't do a lot of detail in the face anymore. It's all about, can you project yourself into my drawing?
Yeah, right.
And that's why I sell them.
Yeah. Okay, and let's go on to the next image.
This is kind of a pastoral scene. This is a paint horse, and it's called Let's Go Home Girl. And I do full backgrounds like this, and this is also in Eastern Oregon. But I'm from Montana, so this reminds me of Montana.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of clients that love paint horses, so that's why I did this. And again, this could be any woman in this drawing.
Right.
And I'm doing a companion piece right now with a guy with 2 border collies, and it's going to be called Let's Go Home Boys. So same kind of thing.
Okay. I imagine that that considering how much time you invest in each piece, that once you are done, you get a real personal satisfaction out of the achievement.
Definitely.
I mean,
Definitely. My best year, I produced 12 pieces. And that is a lot for a pencil artist that does the kind of detail I do.
Yeah.
And so that's what I always try to goal, is being able to get that kind of stuff done. So.
And you've mentioned that you make it to various art shows.
Oh yes.
How many shows do you make make it to each year?
Well, it depends. At the height of when I was going to shows, I was on the road 3.5 months a year.
Okay.
I would do Arizona and the CM Russell show in Montana and the Fippen show in Prescott, Arizona. And these are shows that you have to be juried into.
Right.
They look at your art and they go, okay, you're good enough, you can
Yeah.
come. And so those are the kind of shows that I like to do. I've been a rodeo poster artist twice. Which is very unusual for a pencil artist
Yeah.
because they want color.
Right.
So to get chosen as a pencil artist was a real joy. That was a real joy.
Yeah.
So.
And I imagine that at this point you've got a nice base of collectors of your work.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. In fact, the funny thing is when I went to the CM Russell show, I had one guy that had followed me for 3 years, and I hadn't sold anything at that show. And he finally came back the third year, and he goes, you know what? You're serious. I'm going to collect your art. And so he started collecting my originals,
Yeah.
which was terrific.
Yeah.
And they all have good homes.
Yeah.
And and then I reproduce them after they are sold into giclées, which is a fancy word to mean to squirt. All it is a fancy inkjet printer.
Yeah.
And so that's how I make my reproductions.
And are you going through a local source for doing that, or do you go out?
Actually, I do. There was a print shop that the people had moved away to Seattle, and so Pronto Print actually took all of their equipment, and now they have somebody who does all their fine art printing,
Yeah.
and he takes care of all of my work.
great.
And so I can call him up at a moment's notice. The thing that's interesting about the printing now,
Yeah.
back in the day it was lithographs,
Yes.
sign and numbered,
Yeah.
very important. Now it's giclée, it's a computer generated file.
Yeah.
The first print is as good as the 10,000th print.
Yeah.
So when people order my work, I can call them up. I have the print in 2 days, and the customer is happy.
Yeah. Do you find that that among your that in the collector marketplace, at least in the Western art market, that that collectors have an issue about the new modern
yes.
style printing?
They certainly do. They want that lithograph, sign, and numbered.
Yeah.
And so most of them just buy my originals.
Right.
Because they don't want to go through the giclée because it's
Yeah.
not that sign and numbered thing anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I've kind of dealt with that a little bit on my end as a photographer.
Exactly.
Right, and so that's something that I'm wondering if that was still an issue now as it was back in the day when I was kind of confronted with
Well,
that.
you know, it depends on the age of the collector. An older collector definitely wants the lithograph
Yeah.
or the original. A younger collector understands the computer generated and that it's such a great medium, and so they don't mind. So.
Okay, so basically you've got to deal with two age groups
Definitely.
on the issue.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, like right now, where can people see your work? Are your as far as galleries that you're being displayed
I have a
at?
gallery in Whitefish, Montana,
Okay.
and it's a wonderful gallery called Samara. And then I have another gallery in Kerrville, Texas,
Okay.
and that's the Lawrence Gallery. But I have my website, which
Yeah.
is just my name, kimragsdale.com.
Right.
You can see all my work there all the time. And I teach locally. I teach my technique privately to people that want to learn how to draw like this.
Right, okay. And what's the general price range for like your prints, the people that want to buy prints of your work?
Well, when I start with an original, my originals go from 8,000 to down to 5,000.
Okay.
When you go to a print, like a 16 by 24 is like $450. And I frame them and glass them and map them and everything. But it's an affordable way for people to be able to collect art
Right.
without having to pay the original price.
Yeah. And do you have any smaller versions of your prints other than like 16 by 24? Is that like your standard?
Well, the thing that's interesting is that I learned over the years that I draw 16 by 24, but that comes down when you print
Yeah.
to a 12 by 18,
Right, okay.
or a 9 by 6,
Right.
or a 4 by 5.
Yeah.
So I've got all of these great standard prices. I can make cards.
Yeah.
I can do a 9 by 10. I can do all a 9 by 11.
Yeah.
And so it's affordable for everybody.
Okay. Well, it's been really great having you on the show.
Well, thank you, David.
And this should be pointed out that Kim happens to be also the provider of all my fine Western wear because she works at Boot Barn here in Medford.
That's my other hat.
That's your other hat.
That's my other hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she keeps me looking good for the show. So I appreciate that.
Well, you're a great customer, David. I appreciate it.
So we basically have reached the end of our show, Rogue Artisans and Crafters, and we thank you at home for joining us and learning about our featured artist, Kim Ragsdale. We thank Kim for being our featured artist and appearing on our show to discuss her life and work. We also want to thank our crew who made it possible to put this program together, and to thank RVTV for their wonderful studio facility, which allows us to produce shows such as this one. If you'd like to become a studio producer and create your own public access show, you can contact RVTV to learn how. You can watch this show on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. and Thursday evenings at 11:30 p.m. on Channel 15 of the Ashland Home Network, and in the rest of Southern Oregon via chartered cable on Channel 182. You can also find all episodes of Rogue Artisans and Crafters at archive.org. You can also visit RVTV online at rvtv.sou.edu to find live streaming of all RVTV shows. Please make sure and check out Kim Ragsdale's website where you can get more information about her art. I would also like to take this opportunity to wish tonight's crew and everyone here at RVTV that has helped me this year in 2017 as I produced and hosted not only this series, but my other series, Gems of the Road Valley, a wonderful and safe holiday season. To everyone here at RVTV and everyone watching, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We will see you all in 2018. I'm your host, David Glamour Dave Nienow, and we will see you next time.